Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Aerial Property Advisors, Perfect Building Maintenance. Additional funding has been provided by AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Avison Young, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Cohen Equities, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Dime Community Bank, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Genova Burns, Handro Properties, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hodges Ward Elliott Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Polsonelli, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Knackle Group at Cushman & Wakefield, Maring-Goff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
Trinidad, Wisconsin, New York City, NYU, Medgar Evers. No, I'm going to start this program for black writers. Oh, I'm going to write a book. No, I'm not going to write one book. I'm going to write 10 books. I'm going to write memoirs. I'm going to be a distinguished author. I'm going to be the distinguished professor at the City University. I have Dr. Elizabeth Nunez today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Since I gave you a life in about 37
Yes,
seconds.
you did.
So let's talk about life in Trinidad. Tell me in a short period about Grandpa and your father, because, you know, we have the Portuguese experience, we have a couple of others, and then we have to come back to Wisconsin. You have to remember when you were one of the four.
Well, we're a very close-knit family. I know more about my father's side than I know about my mother's side.
So let's talk about your father's side.
Okay. So my father was very, very close to his father. He adored his father. And his father was very close to his mother. So we had that sort of thing going. My parents were, you know, my father would take us at least once a week to see us.
But that side was the Portuguese?
That side was where my grandfather is the son of a Portuguese man and the daughter of a freed African, enslaved African. The interesting thing is that they got married. The Portuguese man married this daughter of a freed slave, and after they had 3 children in quick succession, he died. My great-great-grandmother turned out to have been educated. And so she was really more educated than the Portuguese man who married her. So she then carried that on. So she had 3 children. One of them became a dentist and moved to Harlem.
Moved to Harlem, right.
Yeah. One of them was my grandfather, who became a headmaster and then was in charge of various and sundry things. And the other one, we're not so sure of.
The lost.
We lost.
Oh, we lost.
We kind of lost.
So now let's talk about your mother and your father. I mean, you know, your father was married previously.
Yeah.
Then he marries your mother. Then there are 9. He had 2 children, and then there were 9 children.
Yeah.
So there's the 11, which we have that picture of the very small clan.
Yeah.
Okay, of the family over there. I think half of the Trinidad was part of the Nunez family.
The UN. We are a little UN.
International team. And Dad worked for the government, right?
Yes, my father, as you said, when he married my mother, he came with a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old because his wife had died in childbirth. And then 10 months later, they had me. So we didn't have any distinction between the children who were not my mother's children.
Right,
So
everybody was
11,
together.
we had 11 children. My father, I will just say this in song, immodest. I think he was the most brilliant man I ever knew. And also the most principled, and that I can say, the most principled person I ever knew. And I'm saying that to say that he was very, very smart in school. And in fact, at one point was going to study medicine. But at this point, his parents, his father was getting old. And there were 9 in the family. And my father decided, well, there are 2 stories about it. One, that he was afraid of blood, and the other one was that he felt he did not want his father selling land, because my grandfather would have sold land to have him go to medical school. And he married my mother.
Right, so he works in Trinidad, working originally for the government.
He worked originally for the government.
And then after working for the government, when the country is, given its freedom from England, he gets to work for Shell.
The Shell Oil Company.
The Shell Oil Company, and he's an executive with the Shell Oil Company.
Yeah, he was one of 2 people that the Shell Oil Company, 2 local people, 2 black people, that the Shell Oil Company had, because usually the people there were either Dutch, English, or American. And we were the first, our family we were the first black family to move into the compound, into the Shell compound.
Now, when you were 7 years of age, you wrote a story, you wrote a little article, right? What was the short story?
Well,
for Tiny
Tots.
Tiny Tots.
Good.
It was Tiny Tots.
Yeah.
And your dad submitted the article for you.
Yeah, well, as far back as I can remember, Michael, I wanted to be only 2 things. I wanted to be a writer and a teacher. So I corralled my brothers and sisters, was constantly teaching them in school and constantly regaling them with stories that I would make up. And when I was about 7, I had written this story. I think I probably wrote many more stories before that. But my father said, let's send this to the Tiny Tots competition, and I won. And it was published in the local newspaper.
So how does it happen that the oldest daughter, of the new clan, ends up in this city in Wisconsin?
The time, it's the year. I came to Wisconsin in 1963. That is just on the assassination of Kennedy and on the cusp of the Civil Rights Bill. And I was very Catholic. My family was very Orthodox.
Now, when I was reading in your memoir, which we have the memoir here and one of the 10 children over there, the other books, it said that your mother was a really devout Catholic.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about your dad.
My father was a convert.
Right.
He had a very practical view about religion. He just had the golden rule. Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. Don't do anything bad to someone. That was basically
So was this a Catholic school you went to in Wisconsin?
Because the Catholics, and when I said to you the timing, 63, 64, the Catholics looked around and saw that all their colleges, they had no black kids in their colleges. So they sent headhunters out to the Caribbean, to Africa, to South America, and one of their headhunters ended up in Trinidad and said, listen, we will give you a scholarship to this college in Wisconsin. And when I arrived there were 3 other girls, 2 from Haiti, another one from Trinidad. There was not a single student of color in that college. There was not a single person of color in that town. It was
It was
a shock.
Little shock. Now, since you didn't really love it over there, you finished it in 3.5 years.
I would have done it in 3 years if it were possible.
So, but it was a good education. So, and then you go back to Trinidad
I go back to Trinidad.
to teach, your second vocation, because
Right.
you wanted to write. And at Trinidad, you're there for about a year.
A year. I taught in high school there.
And then you come back, now you come to New York City.
Yeah.
So what happens? You come to New York City and you end up near NYU. Tell the story about the person who gave you his money and his room. And
Manzuzu Chikazunga.
Yes.
Manzuzu Chikazunga. It's the immigrant story, you know. It's kind of what Machiavelli says in The Prince, that people would promise you anything so long as it's remote that they would have to fulfill that promise. So there was this girl who said, when you come to New York, you can stay in my apartment. And of course, I believed her. And I went, and I knew her from high school. I stayed in her apartment.
And then one day she locks the door.
She locks me out. She locks me out. And when I say that the door, I can't come in, I call her up. She says, yeah, I'll be back at 5 o'clock and you can get your things. So I go to NYU and I look up on the, I'm looking at the foreign student thing, and this man from Tanzania, Manzuzu Chikazunga, comes to me and he says, what's the problem? I tell him what the problem is. He says, well, I am going away for the next 3 weeks, and if in a couple of hours, come back to this address and you can stay here for 3 weeks. I wouldn't do that today, but I was so desperate.
So when you arrive at his apartment, he had food for you.
He had went to the grocery, he had food for me, and he sure left. Now, here's the thing, Michael. By that time, fill in the dots, by the time he came back, I had some money, I found an apartment, whatever. Maybe 25 years later, I'm in Amityville, and I see that there's a Chikazunga who's running for school board. So I called, and I said, it's a Catherine, a woman. And I said, I know somebody called Manzuzu Chikazunga. She says, yeah, that's my husband. And I go to meet him, and he had married her. She had 7 children, and he married her with 7 children, and they had maybe 2 more on their own.
They were following the Nunez's.
Well, it was the kind of man he was.
So you're back here, and what happens? You go to Chase Manhattan Bank because you think you're going to get a loan for student aid for NYU?
Because I have no money now.
Right.
I want to go to NYU. NYU has admitted me for a master's degree, and I see this advertisement on TV. I don't know anything about America, you know. I know when you have an ad, maybe it's true. And the ad was, you have a friend in Chase Manhattan. So I go to Chase Manhattan, and I say, I'm a friend. I understand I have a friend. And they tell me something about collateral. And I say, well, my collateral is my promise that I'm going to get educated and I'm going to get a job. Why would I, if I had collateral, I wouldn't be asking you to lend me some money. Well.
So let's talk about the first job. It was during a period of time that you found there was a civil service test for a social worker.
Yeah, it was the
I didn't
Vietnam
realize, so tell me about that.
It was
You and
the
your
Vietnam
friend.
War. Yeah, it was the Vietnam War. And, this is part of the Manzuzu Chikazunga story. I needed money. And because New York had such need for social workers, you would go in there, you would take the test. In a week, they'll tell you whether you passed or not. I did pass. And then based on what you tell them, they'll give you 2 weeks advance salary. I don't think that happens today. But so that's how I had the money to pay down on a little studio apartment. And also, Michael, I did my master's and my PhD at NYU, working full-time during the day and going to school at night. And when I graduated, I didn't owe a single penny.
Now,
Nobody can do that now.
Now, when did you graduate?
Oh, well,
we
know how old I am, so that's all right. I got my master's in 71, and my PhD, really, I was finished in 76, but I graduated in January of 77.
So what happens at that time? You end up in Brooklyn? You're in Brooklyn now? How do you get to Medgar Evers?
Well, the Medgar Evers thing was so funny, because after I got my master's, I'm on the train, and I see a sign, Medgar Evers College. So I get off the train, because
It's a new emerging school of the City University.
City University. I walked in there at the beginning of September, end of August, something like that. And I had the good luck. Well, number one, I was kind of cute in those days. And I was wearing my little mini skirts and my 4-inch heels. And I walked in there and they had just lost a faculty. The school had just started, they had just lost the faculty. And the two men who interviewed me said they'd take a chance on me. And so they did. But the dean of faculty was there when they gave me the job, came to me and he said, "But Elizabeth, there are two things you have to do. You have to get a PhD. And the other thing you have to do is you have to write academic articles. If you don't do that, in 4 years, you're gone." So the next day I went back to NYU and enrolled in a PhD program, and also immediately began realizing that I had to write scholarly articles, and I did.
Now, tell me about the days of Medgar Evers, because besides being a professor and a teacher at Medgar Evers, you get involved later on as a provost and other
Medgar Evers is Medgar Evers has gone through a lot of permutations. When I started at Medgar Evers, there was a lot of hope. You know, we were building this institution. We were developing programs. We didn't have anything, so we were involved in doing all of that. I attribute a lot of the person I am to what happened to me in that college. But it was not easy, because I was a Caribbean immigrant, and people looked at me a little askance as to my loyalty to Black America.
But Medgar Evers was a black school.
Yes, but Medgar Evers
was not Caribbean.
And not only that, he was a civil rights martyr.
Right.
So that the assumption would be that I had a sort of secondary place there. Yes, some wonderful things happened to me. One of them is that I became a distinguished professor, which is a CUNY-wide position. I met John Oliver Killen.
But you also...
Then I became provost.
You became provost over there. Now, when you're at Medgar Evers, is that when you decide to write your first novel?
I think that as I just said to you, that from the time I was little, I was always writing. So I think I always had scribblings.
So what was the year of the first novel?
My first novel came out in 86.
In 86. But you started it much before.
Okay. Years ago.
And as you were saying in your memoirs and now meetings, it took you time to write the novel. There was something holding you back.
Well, one of them is that, a person needs role models. Role models are crucial to seeing that it is possible for it to happen. And I didn't know of any published writers, who looked like me or came from my experience, female, Caribbean, from my experience. And I would do it, but I didn't have, to be a writer, you have to have a huge ego, because you have to think that what I am writing is so good that people are not only going to read it, they're going to pay to read it.
So what was the first book about?
The first book, I thought, at the time, the feminist women's movement was in high gear, and I thought I was going to write a story about somebody like me who was throwing a lot of balls in the air, taking care of
social work, a PhD,
children,
right, everything
husband, the traveling. I thought, and I found that that's not the novel I could write about, because I didn't know who I was. And the reason I didn't know who I was is I grew up in colonial Trinidad. And when you grow up in colonial Trinidad, you have a colonial education. And by a colonial education, I mean, since because of my family, I went to the best schools there. I had a British education. It was as if I went to school in London.
Look, in addition, all of your brothers and sisters were educated. They became doctors. You have 3 doctors over there, actuaries, bankers, educators. Everybody was a well-educated person from Trinidad that your father, helped.
My parents did.
Your parents helped. And you, due to a great deal, due to the opportunity when he was working for Shell.
That's correct, because my 3 brothers came out of medical school in the States without owing a penny. So it's not that they're going to school in this country.
Right, so you had that opportunity, which is not often given to many people
That is correct.
in the country. But what happens, tell me about how you meet John Killings.
Well, at that point, I think it was around 83, 84, something like that. I was the chairperson of the Humanities Division, and he was sent to my department as writer-in-residence. And I said, John, I had these little scribblings, take a look at it. And he looked at it and he said, you are a writer. Well, that's the first time anybody said something like that.
So he was your mentor and also the individual.
Inspiration.
Mentor and inspiration, because I think your dad was also, your mother and father were very important in your life. What happens in 1986, is it? The creation
of the National Black Writers Conference. John and we got together. He knew everybody. He knew all the major players.
Right, and we have that picture of all those major players.
Made the top writers in this country, black writers and black critics. He knew them. And so I wrote a proposal to the National Endowment for the Humanities, which I understand, I thank God, is saved again. And they gave me a grant, and together we did the first National Black Writers Conference.
And the first conference was held at
Medgar Evers. Maya Angelou was the speaker. John died the next year, it was 87, but we continued to do it. And I can tell you that in one of the conferences, I think the one in 94, the New York Times, the first page of the arts section, the whole first page was about that conference. We got to a point where we were not only doing it at Medgar Evers, we did it at in that 4-day weekend. We would do it at the Botanic Gardens, the Schomburg, the Joseph Papp Theater, all at the same time. It was just amazing.
Now, and you headed this from 86 until...
To 2000.
To 2000. And during that period of time, you wrote how many novels?
During that time, I probably wrote about four or five novels. But you have to understand that it wasn't only writing novels, because I'm an academic at this point.
No question.
And so
you're still teaching.
No, but the kind of writing I also have to do is academic writing. I have to do literary criticism to be published in scholarly journals. As far as the institution is concerned, for me to move up the ladder, the academic ladder, to the professorial ladder,
you had to have the academic.
Those kinds of articles.
Right, it didn't matter about the fiction novels.
Well, eventually it did matter, but it didn't matter until I became a professor. And it did matter when I became a distinguished professor.
When were you made a distinguished professor?
Oh boy, I know I should know this, but the years just kind of zoop in. But I think it's about 12 years ago.
Now, when do you change schools to go to Hunter College?
I've been at Hunter now for 6 years. A new president came into Medgar Evers, and he had a new provost.
So you joined Hunter as a distinguished professor in the Department of Literature.
Of English, yeah. The rank of distinguished professor is a CUNY rank. It does not belong to a college.
Right.
So that when you become a distinguished professor, it is something that the university confers on you, not your institution. And so when I moved from Medgar Evers to Hunter, I carried my rank with me as distinguished professor.
Now, in many of the books, in your memoir and also in a number of articles, you write that black authors are discriminated, And I'm evaluating it myself. I believe the feeling is correct, because where the articles were, where the books were published, the difficulties getting publishers to print. I mean, there have been certain very successful black authors who have made millions. And
who have been chosen.
Who have been chosen, but it's really a selected crew.
That is correct. Now, I have come to the point of understanding a little better that there is the art and there is the business. And publishing is a business, and like any business, it's looking for its market. If there is a market for its product, they will sell that product. So who is to blame? Is it the publisher, because the publisher is not promoting and distributing a book by a black writer? Or is it the market, that is to say, the readers?
Who's the reader of your fictional books?
Who is the reader? I just did
You did a program in Brooklyn at Brick.
No, not Brick, at the Brooklyn Historical Society. They thought maybe 50 people would come. They filled up 250 seats. That was
Right,
in February, and with people standing in the back on that very question, who are the readers? People say that the buying, according to publishers, the people who buy books are white women. The people who purchase books are white women. And they say white women want stories that would reflect their experience. So a black writer, or a writer like me, who's writing about the Caribbean and America, that's not their experience. So they can't identify with the characters. That's what publishers say. When I go out to speak, I find the opposite. My readers say they like the idea of going to another place and
Right, they're learning a different environment. They're learning about the Caribbean. They're not learning about America.
That's right. So it's the chicken and the egg thing. You can blame the publisher for not distributing and marketing your work, because you can publish a book, but if it is not properly promoted, it'll just fall like a rock.
How do you decide to write the memoir? Basically, the memoir starts with your learning that your mother was taken off life support after a stroke, and you tell the story about your father and living in Trinidad, okay, and your own life over there. How long did the memoir take you to write?
The memoir came much faster than my other novels, and probably because I had this unexpressed anger, this repressed anger towards my mother. And the reason I'm saying it's unexpressed is that that's not something you did in my culture. You didn't answer back your parent. You didn't argue with your parent. If there was something that your parent did that you didn't like, you suck it up. You sucked it up, more or less.
I think the reality of when your father did not want to believe that your mother had died, and he walked into the funeral director, really was an emotional thing.
You read my book.
Yes,
You read
saying
my book.
that she is dead.
Yeah, my father, yes, didn't believe that my mother, well, he believed, but he wanted the fact.
Right.
And so when I landed in Trinidad after my mother died, because I got that call that every immigrant is afraid of, that call at 2 in the morning,
Right.
Got on the plane, arrived there the next day. First thing my father says, I want to see.
So now, with like a minute left, let's talk about the joy of your life, your son and your grandchildren.
Oh, wow, yes.
Tell me your son's name.
I am so lucky. My son, his name is Jason Harrell. He's married to a wonderful lady, Denise Woods Harrell.
They live in Brooklyn.
They live in Brooklyn. I spend half the week in Brooklyn too, so I get to see them a lot. He's just a...
And you have
I have 2 granddaughters,
Their names?
Jordan Harrell, who is 16, and Savannah Harrell, who is going to be 10.
Boy, those pictures that we have to get new ones, because those
You
were
have baby ones,
pictures.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they're grown up.
But what I'm saying, it was fortuitous that it was the 60s. It was fortuitous that you went to Wisconsin and you were able to learn about that. And the kid who wrote her first award-winning report at 7, who's had many awards and nominations over the year, has become the distinguished professor, writer,
like that, huh, Michael?
author. Thank you for being here today.
And thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. I very much enjoyed this.